Hey everybody, Eric Brown, MOBO-Media, back at you again, another video, Veterans Day. Hey, I want to talk about something a little serious today, and I kind of debated on whether I even want to kind of go there. It's nothing bad, it's just that what I'll be revealing is some veterans' experiences, their traumatic experiences, and I know the veterans that I'm discussing would want me to tell those stories because they told them to me. And I think this is something that people need to realize and understand when it comes to military service. It's not all good, obviously people get killed, men, women, combatants, and but people also get traumatized by things they experience within the military. So I'm gonna talk about some of my own family members, man, stories we've discussed, I want to say privately, but it was veteran to veteran. And these veterans would want me to tell those stories, trust me. And so I'm just kind of go down a list here and just talk about some of the things they experienced and how I viewed it at the time. So the first one was my uncle, Paul McDonald. So Paul Mac, he served in Vietnam, I think he served 2 tours of Vietnam. Him and I used to talk all the time about like coming under attack because he was involved with some fierce fighting that was going on there. He was defending an air base. I can't remember the name of the air base. I'll hopefully try to put it in the comments. But he said they were getting hit every day, just about every day. And it got to the point where I think he actually ended up getting injured because he was taking off running from some mortar fire or rifle fire or something like that. And he ran into like a tent post or something crazy injury, man. But I'll never forget the fact that he said he did 2 tours of Vietnam. Most people do one and it's traumatic, but he did 2. And but my loving Uncle Paul he went on to glory a couple of years ago, but I'll never forget the time we spent together. So the next family member I want to talk about that's experienced some traumatic things is my Uncle Hewlin. My Uncle Hewlin, man, I used to love just sit and talk with him. Me and him would sit there and have a drink, a soda, a beer, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And just enjoy each other's company, man. He's just such a warm person. Real talk. But one thing about Uncle Hewlin, man, he used to always tell me the story over and over again. And it wasn't until later on, after I had been in the military for a certain amount of time, that I realized that he was traumatized by this. And so the story went like this. It's a real simple story, but it's just crazy. He said they had come from the field, doing some training or what have you. And he went into the shower, obviously military, they use a lot of open base showers, and so he went into the shower. He said he was in the shower and he looked over and noticed a guy coming into the shower while he was in there, which was not uncommon. It's probably enough to hold 8 to 10 people, you know what I'm saying? But the guy came in with a pistol, came in with a 45. A 45 is a type of gun that he came in with. Now, back then for the job he was doing, 45 was his service revolver. That's the one that was issued to him by the military, you know what I'm saying? So this guy came in with a 45 and y'all, Uncle Hewlin said this dude came up, he wasn't that far from him. And he just put the gun to his head and shot himself. And Uncle Hewlin would describe how some of the matter got on him, from that crazy incident. And so I don't tell you that to put his business out there. I tell you that so you understand that military service is not just about going in the jungle and fighting. People are fighting all types of demons from traumatic events and things that have happened to them that you couldn't imagine. And I'll get into some of the things that happened to me, while in service. But that was quite traumatic. And as I think about it now, I don't know how I could have went forward, but he did. The next one I want to talk about is Uncle Thomas. Uncle Thomas was an older uncle. He served in the Army. And of all the family members I know, I think he was exposed to some of the most fiercest fighting in Vietnam. Like he was in the thick of it. And, for a long time, I would hear people say that Uncle Thomas, when he went into the military, he came back a different person. I used to always hear that as a young person, but I never understood it. All I know is Uncle Thomas was off the chain. You know what I'm saying? The man feared nothing. So maybe he's a little more compassionate before he went to the military, because the Uncle Thomas that I know growing up was I don't want to say he was mean, but he was about his business. He was about his business, and he'll throw some words at you in a minute. You know what I'm saying? But Uncle Thomas would never talk about his time in the military with me, even though I had been in the military. for probably, I don't know, maybe 8 years, something like that. I can't recall. But one day out of the blue, I went home from the military on leave, and me and an aunt decided to go and visit Uncle Thomas. And for some reason, as I sat and talked to him and my aunt talked to his wife, he began talking about his experience in Vietnam. Now keep in mind, he had never talked to me about this before, ever. And he told me this crazy story, man, that I'll never forget. And I was just like, my goodness. So he was assigned to a unit where he flew with helicopters. I think he was a helicopter engineer or something like that. The H-1 Huey helicopters, which are notorious for being shot at in Vietnam and other wars. So H-1 is not a big helicopter, but it's small enough where we can get in a tight space and get troops out who are injured or get troops in the place they need to be. So he would ride around on the H-1 Huey helicopter. So he told me a story one time about they were assigned to go to a base that was under fire. Basically, they were going into combat, into the fire. This base was under fire, but the guys needed supplies. They needed desperate supplies. I don't know if it was bullets and a gun or what they needed, but they needed some supplies. So my uncle was tasked with going in there to do it. It was him. I think he said he had a door gunner, and I think it was a pilot and a co-pilot. My uncle said he noticed something off because when the plane went into, they call it LZ, landing zone, a hot LZ. Hot means it's under fire. When they went to land, he said he noticed something was off because they landed, it was a hard landing. Harder than what it should have been, you know what I'm saying? But adrenaline flowing and bullets flying and bombs going off, and so they're trying to hurry them get out of there. They're trying to offload this stuff, get these guys this stuff so they can get this thing out of there. And they got guys on the ground helping them out, keep the enemy away from the plane so he can do his thing, get them out of there. Well, Uncle Thomas said at some point he was wondering why the plane hadn't taken off yet, why they were taking too long. He said he goes up there and looked at the pilot and co-pilot, and guess what, y'all? It's a true story. And it's documented. I mean, you can go and Google it. Or I even put something in YouTube in the comment section. But he goes up there and the pilot and the co-pilot were high off weed. I'm talking about full, y'all, high as hell. He said he just began screaming at him when he saw that. And he knew that they was, the difference between life or death was them getting off their ass and getting the plane up. He said he just started screaming at him. Get MFs, get this goddamn off the ground and blah, 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 blah. I was like, man, that's the craziest thing. But it caused me to do a little more research on drug use in Vietnam. And what I found out was that, this is documented, it's about 42% of the troops that went into Vietnam were tried some sort of drug. Obviously, the drug of choice back then was heroin, weed, marijuana was plentiful. They even had methamphetamine, which way they would actually give some of the troops to keep them going. And for a time before Vietnam became very popular, it was actually, drug use was actually condoned, believe it or not. This is something I didn't realize. I'm going to send a video in the comment section so y'all can see it for yourselves. But it makes sense why they did that, because the guys that would, and ladies, well, the guys in combat and ladies, they were under tremendous stress. And so that was a way for them to, command to know that at least they get some relief from, taking the drugs when they wasn't doing their thing. But it became too rampant. It became too bad to where they were costing lives, man, from people being high. So they cut that off real quick. So Uncle Thomas, loving uncle, we lost him. Uncle Thomas passed away, actually, when I retired from the Air Force. As I was coming into DFW Airport, coming home, he died as I was landing, like at that moment. And I didn't realize until I started, people were telling me and everything. I looked and I was like, oh my God, it's almost like he handed a baton to me. But I proudly carry that baton, and thank you, Uncle Thomas, for your service to our country. And thank you for being a loving member of our family. So next one I want to talk about is my father, Raymond. This one gets a little crazy, but it gives you an idea of what some folks are exposed to in military service. Some things is not military related that can mess your head up. So I never forget, he told me a story. He was stationed in Greece and Turkey, and I can't remember which location he was in, but he was a young airman in the Air Force, had been in maybe 2-3 years. He said he was walking down the street, Greece or Turkey. Again, I can't remember which location, but he was just walking down the street on a normal day. You have vendors selling food and markets and everything. He's walking down the street. I never forget, he said a hearse passed by. A hearse passed right by him, and the casket fell out of the hearse. And the hearse was just dragging the casket all the way down the street. Whew. when he told me that, I can't even imagine something like that. But keep in mind, he wasn't in the U.S. That's what happens overseas, man. They don't have the same requirements, safety requirements, standards as we do in America. But and I said, did the casket fall? Did it fall? He said, no. The damn hearse dragged the casket for a long way. Man, that messed him up. It messed him up. And for him to even remember that, to tell it to me, lets me know it messed him up. But he also faced a lot of racial stuff over in Greece or Turkey, you know, being racially harassed. And I can tell you right now, my pops didn't want to be messed with. So he caught hell because he fought back. You know, those that fight back catch hell. We always do. I say we, because I've always fought back. But I caught hell. But you know what? I always won every battle I got into. And it wasn't a battle that I asked for. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to do my job. But he caught hell over in Turkey and Greece. And he actually did 4 years and called it quits then. Had a successful, 4-year career, and then went on to retire U.S. Postal Service. So thank you to Pops, man, for exposing me to the Air Force again. And love you. Next family member I want to talk about, my Uncle Rayford Brown. So this gentleman here is the primary reason I think I went into the military. To include my father exposing me to the Air Force. But Uncle Rayford gave me the opportunity to see what it looked like, a soldier. And I mean, he was a real soldier. I mean, he would come home, man, and I would never forget the muscles on him and his calves, man, just straight calf muscles. But I never forget, he would always come and get the kids, make sure to get the kids and take us to amusement parks. Or I remember he used to take us jogging with him, you know, the big field. He'd just make us jog with him. And I never forget that, how professional he was and how just like a perfect man he represented to me. But Uncle Rayford, you know, he had his challenges in the military as well. He caught hell for a lot of racial things, especially as he got up in rank. You know, he was a soldier, and he how can I put this? He was moving up a little too fast for some people. So long story short, one day, you know, he had already started to get harassed, and then finally some people put hands on him, and they did it in a location where only him and the two dudes that tried to do it could tell. But unfortunately, Uncle Ray kicked their asses. I'm just gonna be real with you. He whooped them bad, but they went and tried to concoct this story that he attacked them. He had to actually go through the court system, military court system, and he told me about this. And first time he had told me about it, I just like, man, that's crazy. I never knew he went through all that. But it just lets you know, when we come home from the military to visit and we look all sharp and clean, you know, don't think that it's not without sacrifice. We just don't speak to some things. But Uncle Ray caught hell. Uncle Ray was, he had some trauma too, and some of his trauma was combat related. You know, a lot of people don't know, but my Uncle Ray a lot of family don't know. He was involved in what's called the 1983 Grenada invasion of Grenada. And it's a Caribbean country out there, and I guess a bad leader out there in America had to get rid of him. And so about 19 people got killed in that situation, but he was tasked to go there for that. And so his way of getting in was jumping out of an airplane. You know, he parachuted in. So Uncle Ray, thank you so much. Thank you for all you've done for me, for our family, and for veterans around the world. And so with that, happy Veterans Day to my Uncle Rayford Brown. Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans in the family, but in particular, the man that is the reason I am sitting in front of you now. May God be the glory. Y'all take care. Bye.